And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin. I just realized that I have the wrong background up here, so I'm going to be updating that while we go through this. But today on the show, we are going to be talking about, and I'm calling this a lounge for one very important reason. Normally, this would be a lowdown because I am writing solo. Normally, this would be a lounge or a lowdown, but this is a lounge episode in this one because it's a Sunday, and honestly, we could all use a little, you know, the support that you get from a bar, from a good bartender, right? When you walk into a good lounge that, it's like the old cheer song, right? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, right? Like that's what we're going to be doing here today. We're all going to be commiserating. We are all going to be going through this together today. While I was uh trying to get over last night's loss like really hit me hard for some reason. um, I think some of it is that like it coming to the realization, something I already knew but had some hope for, but coming to the realization that the Nuggets are just better, right? That kind of hurts. That didn't feel good. Um, the the thought that like, you go through some of the situations there that led to Denver's run, which may have been inevitable, may have been unavoidable. We'll talk about inevitability here later in the show when we get into the idea of tanking again. But it was a weird day. It was a weird morning. I was really down from that game, and I was so far down. I was so down and out that today I spent like basically all day. It was like 5-6 hours of like hard ass work. Um, like remodeling my front yard. Like, not remodeling, but revitalizing, right? We have a dripping system for our sprinklers in our flower bed. I redid that. We have had for the last couple of years black mulch. I decided to change that to red, which meant I had to do that all over the yard. I it was, I trimmed all of the bushes in the front yard and picked up all the leaves. I mowed, I trimmed, I fertilized, and it was just like it was one of those days where hard labor is how I was going to like sweat out the bad vibes from last night and some of the wine. And it was just that's how I spent my day. And yeah, I feel I'm exhausted for one thing, but it felt good to kind of get out there and work with my hands and feel like I accomplished something at the end of the day. And it was just the whole time I'm doing it, I'm listening to music, and I'm thinking about that stupid game, and I'm thinking about this stupid matchup. And I'm realizing as I'm doing all of that, oh yeah, that's right. The Pelicans and OKC are playing tonight. Please, OKC, look overwhelming enough so that like this, it doesn't hurt so bad that the Lakers are playing Denver in this matchup instead of OKC. And then obviously it's the last game of the day, so you have to wait around for that all day. And I watched that game, and the entire effing time I'm watching it thinking, I was right. Harrison was right. We should have tanked. Lakers should have tanked. You could avoid them. You could you could have avoided the Nuggets and maybe get lucky with them getting knocked out by somebody else. We could have gotten to this series against. Now you would have had to go through Sacramento, and I know when I tweeted it, a lot of people said, well, the Lakers would have just lost to Sacramento anyway, which maybe I think the Lakers have a chance against Sacramento in that game. I actually think that the Lakers match up pretty well with Sacramento without Herter and without Monk. You know who they don't match up well against? It is the team that they're facing, the team that just kicked their ass last night. And I know that like some people took issue with me calling it a blowout. It was a blowout. The Lakers were up by 12 and they lost by double digits. That's a 20+ point swing. And you know, the second half of the game was not competitive. You know, it was watching this OKC team struggle with the New Orleans Pelicans, and for a lot of the reasons, like they you know, the Pelicans got a bunch of offensive rebounds, and you could really see the inexperience from both the Thunder as a team and from their head coach, who went with a super long rotation despite it being a playoff game. I just watched that game and I was like, yeah, yeah. If only there wasn't the play-in anymore, the Lakers would be facing off against the damn Thunder in this spot. And it's annoying. It was just really annoying to watch that game and that Pelican Thunder game and just feel like, man, the Lakers are so much better than both of these teams. Like, especially in a playoff setting when you're going to get more LeBron, you're going to get more AD. Maybe not so much better, but they're, you know, I think the Lakers probably beat the Thunder in 6, you know, if it even gets that far. And against the Nuggets, I think they're probably going to get swept again. And if they aren't going to get swept, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep where the Lakers maybe win one home game or something like that. And it's just, you know, I understand how fans work. I understand how fans operate. I understand that you guys probably are sick to your stomach even hearing me say all of this while I have this conversation with myself. But yeah, you know, practically speaking, logistically speaking, the wiser thing to have done would have been losing, you know, resting AD so that his back is 100% whenever you play, whoever it is that you play. It's, you know, resting LeBron, who looked exhausted at the end of the second game against New Orleans and looked exhausted, only shot twice in the fourth quarter of the last game. I understand, again, that fans don't want to hear that. Fans are, especially fans of the Lakers, right? Who, you know, the organization of Kobe, who didn't duck any smoke. I'm here to say I'm a coward. I'm a coward. I would take the coward's way out. I would face the worst team because OKC is way worse than the Nuggets. It's not even, I don't think it's even arguable. Like the Thunder, they're a great regular season. They're a great regular season team. I think they're poorly constructed for the playoffs, and the Lakers would have beat them in 6 games. And it's a real bummer that instead of that, they have to deal with the reigning champion Nuggets who own them. It's the, you know, it's not close between the Lakers and the Nuggets. I'm going to move on from that. I might come back to it, you know, depending on the questions that we get. Send in those questions if you guys have, if you want to send them in super comment form. That's a good way to, you know, get your question answered. I am going to be looking at the iTunes mailbag later, as well as answering some questions from Twitter, and then obviously hear from the live audience. We already have a couple super comments that I will be getting to later in the show. But in terms of like actual news that we have to get to, Christian Wood is, according to Shams Charania, slated to return potentially in Game 3. I think it helps in that it's another big body. It's probably a big body who's a better matchup for Jokic than Hayes is. You could play Wood alongside AD a little bit more comfortably than you can with Hayes. That's a pairing that Darvin actually used in the regular season. You know, whereas Hayes and AD was not much. It was not featured very much. So that, I guess, is one thing that you could kind of point to in optimism or copium. But the problem there is that, like, you know, Wood has missed a bunch of time, and you know, as soon as he steps onto the court, the Nuggets are going to challenge him with all kinds of pick and rolls with Jamal Murray, where he would have to like switch out and either switch on to Jamal Murray or try to hedge and recover or whatever in that spot, or they'll just go with straight post ups with Jokic, going through Wood's chest. I don't think that would end very well for Wood either. But I do think though that I he's worth trying, right? We're going to talk about some adjustments that the Lakers can make here heading into game 2 in a second, but I think I don't think this is a Jackson Hayes series. He has this like frenetic energy that works well against the OKCs of the world and works well against like the Pelicans or something like that, where like less disciplined teams will will like, he'll get to the rim and create extra opportunities. The Nuggets are so disciplined up and down that roster that Hayes is really kind of a poor matchup here. And on top of that, like Jokic sees Hayes, and if he sees him at all, but it's the exact type of player Jokic has always played well against, is the bounce happy big who all it takes is like looking in one direction, and that defender is going to move. And then, on top of that, Hayes is pretty light in the wallet, and is pretty easy to move physically on top of the way that he can be moved with like ball fakes and head fakes and stuff. And, I think Wood would be a little bit better in that spot than Hayes. Now, would he be better in that spot than Hayes coming off of like a 1 and some change, or maybe 2-month absence? Probably not, right? Because I think he got hurt in during All-Star weekend, which was back in February. So he's missed multiple months of NBA basketball. It's hard to ask him to go from that. It's hard to ask players to go from that to playing in the regular season. It's damn near impossible to ask somebody to go from that, missing multiple months, to then, all right, let's try you out in the postseason now. It's just, that's a lot to ask. I'm not comfortable hoping for anything from Christian Wood here. We do have a actually, that's a Legend. You ask a good question. I'll come back to that one here in a bit. But the other topic that I wanted to hit on here was actually asked about in a super comment, which means Gorilla asks thoughts on AD not cracking the top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's stupid. Like, I think it's just dumb. For some reason, the national media and the voters who offer up their input on these awards just cannot stand AD for some reason. I don't know if it's still holding against him, his kind of clunky exit from the New Orleans Pelicans. I legitimately don't know. I don't understand it. But for whatever reason, since Anthony Davis has been a Laker, he is one of the more disrespected players, I think, in the league nationally. It's like you tune into whatever show that you want to tune into, and it's always some stupid conversation about Anthony Davis's injury stuff. Well, he played more games this season than he's ever played before, I believe. And if it isn't that, the most, it's the second most. Well, he's inconsistent. Okay, sure, yeah, but like, he might be inconsistent offensively. He's not inconsistent defensively. When you think about, like, when you look at this roster that the Lakers have, where Anthony Davis is being asked once again to make up for a backcourt of D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves, at times a trio of D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Taurean Prince. The Lakers' quote unquote best defenders Like Jared Vanderbilt missed most of the year this season. And Cam Reddish was leaned on heavily defensively. Like the idea that Anthony Davis would somehow keep this defense even somewhat, like even remotely intact, is and not like get any benefit of the doubt for it, is just stupid. Like it's just bad analysis on the part of these voters. And it's like, well, we gotta reward winning. We have to reward winning here with some of these awards. Well, what the fuck is Wemby doing there? Like, yeah, he has great on-off numbers, but that's because the guys that are coming in behind him are like the Spurs were trying to lose. The idea that like AD would be a knock on AD, his lack of winning this year, and the fact that he's in like the whatever it was, finished in the 8th spot um in the regular season, that would be held against him, but not Victor Wembanyama. And like even beyond Victor Wembanyama, the Miami Heat won 46 games. The Lakers won 47. So if you're saying like, well, we have to reward winning, the Lakers actually technically the Lakers won 48 because they won the in-season tournament. So like Bam Adebayo getting enough votes to be a finalist here, that doesn't make it like look, I think Bam is a great defender. Like of the 3 guys that I would remove to put AD there, I would take Wemby out. I know he's an analytics darling, and I know that he is like his like counting numbers and all that stuff are incredible, but AD's counting numbers are incredible. Like his counting numbers defensively are actually better than Rudy Gobert's, who is going to win the thing, right? Rudy is the best defender on the best defense in the league, which okay, like that's historically how this award typically goes. But could you imagine what Anthony Davis could do if he was surrounded by the defenders that Minnesota has on their roster? Like, and I know this isn't a hypothetical award or whatever, and I know that this isn't that NBA in-season awards don't go to like the best player or the best defender all the time. It is that the best defender or the most valuable player that season. And I don't know, man. Like even if AD wasn't going to win, and he never was going to win this year, the Lakers' defense statistically isn't good enough. And we are really stupid when it comes to analyzing defense. But the idea that AD wouldn't be a finalist here, wouldn't crack the top 3 for best defenders in the league, when for my money, he's the most versatile defender in the world. It again reminds us all how stupid in-season awards are, or the NBA's end of season awards are, where you have Steve Nash winning more MVPs in his career, or as many MVPs in his career as Shaq and Kobe combined. You have, I don't think Eric Spoelstra has ever won Coach of the Year. I don't think Phil has. I think Pop might have once. Like these awards don't represent NBA history. And again, you're going to have Anthony Davis, who for my money is the most versatile defender, at least one of the most versatile defenders in the history of the sport. He's probably going to finish his career without a defensive player of the year. And it's just like, okay, cool. So we're devaluing this whole thing. All right, that's fine. But then why have him? All right, let's I talk about these game 2 adjustments. Apologies. I have a piece of grass in my eye. But yeah, the adjustments that I would look for the Lakers to make here. For one thing, Rui needs to play more. I think D'Angelo Russell. Well, let's just like start with Rui. Um, for whatever reason, I watched the game back, and yeah, Jokic just absolutely obliterated Rui in every opportunity that he had, and I really didn't like starting the game with Rui on Jokic. I just the problem with that approach, and I talked about this with Raj, and I think Raj and I disagree on this front, but like the problem with Rui on Jokic and hoping that AD can kind of roam and wreak havoc as a weak side defender is that Aaron Gordon isn't the kind of offensive player, even though he can't shoot. Aaron Gordon is not the kind of offensive player that you can just ignore. And he's so good roaming the baseline. Gordon is on, and looking for opportunities to dunk it. He has great rapport with Nikola Jokic. That alley-oop that Jokic throws to Aaron Gordon on the baseline is pretty devastating. It's like damn near impossible for anybody to stop. And what that means is like AD isn't able to fully go and be the impact defender in help situations as he normally is. So I would rather try AD on Jokic and just see if you can kind of make life that much more difficult on him. Now, the problem there is that Jokic is the exact type of player that AD struggles with, a physical, impossible to move, big, who, just goes right through players. And, those are the types of players that AD really struggles with. And I would still, though, like I at the beginning of this next game, if it isn't, I would not start Rui on Jokic. If you're looking to kind of get clever here, maybe you start with LeBron on Jokic. But for me, I start with AD on Jokic, and I see how that goes. AD, like if again, I keep saying it. In my opinion, he's the most versatile defender of all time. Not of all time. Close though. He's like one of the most versatile defenders of all time. And yet the Lakers are kind of minimizing the impact he can have on these games defensively. And with the way that they're doing this. And I just don't like making, limiting the impact that AD can have here. Oh shoot, I didn't mean to show that one. Sorry, Legend. I'll come back to that question here in a bit. The other adjustment that I would make is with D'Angelo Russell. I said this on the show after the game, still stand by it. I give him a half. Like you can't wait till you can't even wait till game 3 to see if D'Lo is ready to go. Like if he plays poorly in the first half here, that would be 5 games in a row where in the playoffs that he has struggled against Denver, and then it would be 5.5 games if he struggles in that first half. So like you can't keep hoping, you can't keep trying the same thing and hoping for a different outcome, right? That's the definition of insanity. So if D'Lo doesn't have it, I know that it probably makes the Lakers it lowers their ceiling, but I would go with Gabe and I would ride Gabe here. And this is somebody who I've not exactly been blown away by, but D'Lo was just that bad in that last game that I just and again I went back and rewatched it. He took so many stupid shots that were off of 5 or 6 dribbles that didn't involve anybody else in the offense, just to show people I swear I'm trying, I'm engaged. And you saw Darvin Ham drawing up play after play after play for D'Lo, trying to keep him engaged. It was a losing effort. It was a lost game. It's a game that where you had AD go toe to toe with Jokic, and you had Jamal Murray kind of struggle from the outside or from the floor, and the Lakers lost it by double digits in large part because there was too much focus on trying to keep D'Lo around and engaged, where you got to trust that D'Lo might stay engaged just because you have to. He has to. Like if he plays poorly again in this series, he's going to have to opt in. Like he won't have a choice. Nobody's going to pay him because he's probably too good to help you tank outright in the regular season. He's too talented for that to happen. But then you also can't trust him in the playoffs. So like his contractual situation is really kind of iffy. And if he doesn't play well in this series, or if he checks out because Darvin Ham benches him or goes away from him offensively, then that's just kind of on D'Lo. Like that's there's no other real explanation about it. The other adjustment I would make is you got to find a way to get LeBron the ball with his dribble still alive, meaning like catching the ball at the elbow somehow and allow him to kind of command the offense from there. The further out that he is in this offense and the further out that he has the ball in this offense, the easier it is for Denver to pre-rotate and to understand who is where and what his safety valves might be on those drives. You got to figure out a way to keep LeBron. Like he was great in the first half, and then he was just non-existent really offensively in the second half. That can't happen. Like if you can't have LeBron have as little impact as he did in the second half again and hope to have any chance whatsoever in this series. Finally, I would try to see, like, you got to get Austin Reeves. You got to find a way to get him the ball and make him a bigger part of this offensively. Like my dad was texting me all day about like the defense and the approach with Rui and stuff like that. And like I understand it. Like I think Jokic went 8 of 9 when he was guarded by Rui. Totally understand why fans would be like, okay, that's the easy thing to change here, and that's the easy adjustment is to find a way to help with whatever you were struggling with defensively. But to me, the problem was offense. To me, I think the Lakers scored 101 points in that game. That's way too low. The Lakers were a great offense this season, and they looked hapless, whether it was going away from running sets, and we know that the Lakers are a terrible freelancing team because they just have no understanding of what they should be trying to accomplish when they do freelance. And then with Austin, he had no rhythm offensively, and he was basically he became a standstill shooter who if he was touching the ball, it was more likely, or it was as likely that it was going to go up from 30 feet out as it was that he was going to get to the basket or even attempt to get to the basket. And that's just Austin needs to be better than that, or he needs to be more impactful than that. And I think part of it again goes back to the attempts to get D'Lo going, and I understand where they're coming from on that front. But at the end of the day, when it's clear that D'Lo isn't going to get it going, you got to go back to the guys that really have put you in decent situations to this point. Those guys are Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves in the playoffs. So those are the few things that I would look for heading into game 2. Maybe a little bit more, too big type situations where you have Hayes and AD, or you have Christian Wood and AD out. Well, no, Wood won't play in game 2, according to those reports. But maybe I would like to see a little bit more Hayes and AD out there than we got in that game. And I know Hayes got in a foul trouble. Who cares if Hayes is in foul trouble? If he fouls out, then oh well, like he's going to play 10 minutes tops anyway. So like that was the same goes for Gabe. Like I think the Lakers need to get a little bit more creative in finding ways to get more size out there against this big physical Denver team. And until they find a way to do that, I'm concerned that we're going to see that same script play out the same way night in, night out. All right. I'm going to go ahead and dive on into some of the questions here. I do have a couple from from the iTunes mailbag, one from Viva Exceptionalism. Hey, Anthony, not my first review, but as always, the best Lakers pod out there. Love it. Greatly appreciate that, man. I really do. And the competition is really stiff. Like, there are so many really, really smart people making Lakers content. It makes me, it forces me to be better at my job. But to hear something like that, I really appreciate it. The other day, you were discussing whether the Lakers should take their Lakers pick now, whether the Pelicans should take the Lakers pick now or next year. One thing that the Pelicans need to consider is that if they wait, the Lakers will have 3 first-rounders to trade. So if they make a trade either for a third star or just to acquire more talent, hopefully young talent, that may vault them up the standings next year, making the pick a lot less valuable. Yeah, initially my initial kind of instinct here was to say that it makes sense for the Pelicans to kind of uh, gamble on or no. So my initial instinct was that the Pelicans should take the pick now. And with the thought that the Lakers are going to get better next year, that they're going to fire Darvin, and that they'll make upgrades to the roster and all of that stuff, and that they'll be better next year. And I think I mostly still stand by that, and the you do have this lottery ticket, and it is a better draft class next year. Sabrina made a good case for it. Others that I've spoken to have also made that case as well. And I honestly don't know what the Pelicans are going to do. Now, it isn't a lottery pick. And I think the fact that it isn't a lottery pick now means that the Pelicans are going to wait and hope that it becomes a lottery pick. But yeah, shorting the Lakers making bad decisions has typically worked out, and we'll see what that kind of looks like. We'll spend more time on topics like that as we get closer to the off season. The next one here from Keep Pricks. I understand yours and Harrison's take about tanking the 7-8 game, but it's good that the Lakers won it, because you can see that AD's back was still bothering him, and he wasn't himself mobility wise. And then winning the game versus the Pels bought him an extra days to rest up. He would have only had a couple days to heal up the back and then be playing on Friday. Same for LeBron. He was getting gassed midway through the fourth. Another reason you want Denver early is that when you'll have both LeBron and AD rested at their max and not beat up after going a round or two already. Yeah, like I understand. Like there are certainly like logistical and practical reasons to tank beyond understanding that, like, hoping that a team loses is not how fans are going to operate in this kind of setting. It's one thing to hope that a team loses to improve your draft status. It's another altogether to hope that a team loses to improve their playoff situations. But all right. So I'm going to go point by point here. AD's back was still bothering him. Okay, but you would have rested him. Like he wouldn't have played. So you get that rest kind of anyway. You do play an extra game, and then you do pick things right back up after that game. And so maybe that's that makes you worry a little bit. But if AD doesn't play in that 7-8 game and LeBron doesn't play in that 7-8 game, you get roughly as much rest that way as they had resting up for this game here. And also, if you win that game, you don't have to worry about altitude. And, that's clearly a factor in that first game against Denver there. The Lakers looked exhausted in the second half. The other point here is you'll have LeBron and AD rested and at their max and not beat up after already going a round or two. I mean, okay, but you don't have Vanderbilt in this series. He would help. And, while LeBron and AD might get worn down, the Nuggets have like a 7 or 8 guy rotation, and they're like one injury away from needing to start Christian Brown or needing to start Reggie Jackson or something like that. And it's I think they are just as capable of getting worn down over the course of the playoffs as the Lakers are because of how thin their rotation is. But yeah, I don't know. I watched that Pelicans game tonight, and I kept on thinking that it made a bunch of sense for the Lakers to tank to play against them, because I'm just not very impressed with OKC in this playoff setting right now. I think they're going to be terrifying here moving forward. Um, I don't they might get as terrifying moving forward as the Nuggets are now, and the Lakers have to play the Nuggets now. I'm going to go and do take a look at some more super comments here. Legend asks a good question that I accidentally pulled up earlier, but what's a positive from a rude awakening versus Denver is what Legend is asking. That's a good question. It's a fun question. If the Lakers get swept here, I don't see how Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, who want to, like, I'm probably going to drop an article tomorrow on my Substack. I haven't written for Substack in a little bit. I am looking to drop an article here to offer up some intel on Darvin Ham's job security, depending on the outcome of this series. And if the Lakers get swept again, you have to fire him. You have to. Like, it was a frustrating season as it was, and then it gets swept in the first round is essentially like it's barely half a step better than losing in the play-in. And I think you have to fire him there. Will they? I would love to be able to have a better answer or an answer as to, like, any confidence that the Lakers definitely would fire him. And again, that'll be a teaser for tomorrow's article on Substack. But in terms of like other rude awakenings, actually, the thing that I'm a little concerned about here is that, like, their rude awakening would be, all right, well, we did the depth thing. Now we got to go out and get a third star. And I just don't know. Like, maybe Donovan Mitchell makes some sense. I really am not interested in trading a whole bunch of stuff for Trae Young. But even Donovan Mitchell, like, I saw a stat the other day. He had a dunk in their first game of their series, and that was like his second or third dunk since like the All-Star break. So even he is kind of taking a bit of a step back here. And yeah, I don't know. I would like to see the Lakers, like, if we're talking rude awakenings, it has to be more macro. It has to be Jeannie realizing, okay, the way that I'm doing this isn't working. I need to go out and actually hire some people who are qualified for the jobs that they hold. But that isn't going to happen. So, like, the rude awakening is probably going to be like, well, Rob Pelinka gets another opportunity to retool, and Rob Pelinka gets another opportunity to hire a head coach. And I just don't think he's good enough to get another opportunity to do those things. Let's go. Jason Kelly has a question here. All right. So Jason Kelly writes, would the Lakers' chance of winning go up if they benched D'Lo and just played Dinwiddie and Gabe? Westbrook trade ended the AD and LBJ title window. Sigh. It's not just Russ, because like, the Russ trade was devastating and all of those things. Like, you gave up KCP, who eventually goes to Denver and becomes a key part of the best 5-man lineup in the sport. But like, Russ coming in allowed the Lakers to think that they didn't need Caruso. And at that time, the relationship between Clutch and the Lakers was such that the Lakers basically gambled on THT because of their relationship with Clutch, instead of bringing back the surer impact player in Caruso, who might win another all defensive award this year. That would be 2 in the last 2 years. But would the Lakers' chance of winning go up if they bench D'Lo and just played Dinwiddie and Gabe? I think it would give him a better chance. And like, you have to start D'Lo, and you have to see if he, is showing any signs whatsoever of turning things around. Because without D'Lo, I don't think the Lakers' ceiling is high enough to beat the Nuggets 4 out of the next 6 games, right? So you have that to worry about. You also, your floor might be higher with Gabe and with Dinwiddie, but it almost doesn't matter how high your floor is if Denver's ceiling and their floor is so high that like you aren't going to be competitive long term anyway. So again, I'm 1 zillion% pulling for D'Angelo Russell to figure stuff out and to make a greater impact on this series than he has over the last 5 games in the playoffs. But I think Darvin has to be willing to ditch the effort to get D'Lo going a lot faster than we saw it in the last game. And like the idea of, ditching that effort means he's just not playing. Like you have to be willing to not play D'Angelo Russell and make that call sooner in this series than that call was made last year. All right. Let's see. Alex on Twitter, Alex AC 717 is asking any insight on to how the organization feels about the team and the coach's performance in game 1. Yeah, I'm not thrilled they lost, and the game followed the same script. So at some point, the organization is going to start to really get kind of nervous, or I would hope they're already pretty nervous about the idea that there's a team out there that the Lakers just can't get by. And maybe that informs what they do this summer too, where they basically just say it almost, and we've seen them do this, right? We've seen them do it twice in these deadlines where if they get the sense where they feel like it doesn't matter what they do, they aren't going to be able to leapfrog Denver, then they might get even more conservative and just ride out the end of the LeBron James era and just kind of move on from there. I hope not. I'd be really bummed if that's the approach that they took, but we've seen them take that approach before. And I wrote for Silver Screen while I was still there that, like, if you look closely, if you just listen to the message that the Lakers have sent about the LeBron and AD era post Russ trade, that they don't actually really believe in those guys, because the idea that the Lakers wouldn't make even a marginal upgrade at this last deadline because they didn't feel like it was worth it while LeBron and AD were fully healthy at the time, that's a pretty resounding statement right there. And one that we shouldn't ignore, even if ignoring it makes us feel a little bit better. Because I would feel better if I was if I was able to just ignore it, but I'm not able to just ignore those things. I'm gonna go really quickly through. Jason, I just answered your super chat. I hope you were here to see it here. Gary Gutierrez, sup Anthony, why is AD settling for threes when it's been evident he can semi-bully Joker? They kind of bully each other inside on their respective sides. Why doesn't anyone say anything? I actually liked the way that AD attacked Jokic for chunks of the game, and I actually do think there's some value in AD, like seeing if he can knock down a couple threes. When the Lakers beat the Nuggets in that series in the 2020 season that led to a championship, AD was shooting really, really well from outside, and not having that weapon at all anymore is a big reason why Denver has been able to leapfrog them to the extent that they have. So I actually, now maybe AD shot 1 or 2 too many, but I don't think AD can just rely on dunks and shots that he has nothing but confidence in, because it makes him predictable. And if you make AD predictable, Jokic is going to figure that out. and he's going to be better than him on the other side. Let's go with Lakers Nation. Are you on the same boat with people who said we should have tanked? I was one of those people. Let's see. Revived. If he for some reason opted in, that would be a blessing. It's way easier to trade an expiring contract. That's why, to me, I don't think he opts in. I think this is about D'Lo. I think he opts in. If this series continues the way that it's gone to this point, and if D'Lo continues to play against Denver in the playoffs the way that he's played against Denver in the playoffs, I actually think there's a good chance he opts in, because there's no way he's getting that amount of money on the open market after yet another no-show while the Lakers lose. Yeah, revived. The Lakers have the 18th pick as of right now, so the 18th pick in a bad draft, and like it's not a lot. Like that pick isn't going to move up, so I think the Pelicans wind up passing on. Like the Lakers will be able to pick 18th again, or they picked 17th last year, but I think they'll have their pick this year. We'll just hopefully they'll get more from it than they got from their last first round pick. All right. That is it. I think that's all the questions. I'm going to scroll through one more time. Yeah, that is all the questions. And Twitter is quiet as well. And I'm going to go ahead and call it here. So the plan as of now is to go live right after tomorrow's game. And there's a lot riding on this one. I guess like while we're here, I could talk a little bit about my expectations for it and my prediction for it. I'm not even going to get into a prediction, to be honest, because I don't feel good about it, and I don't need to say that out loud and deal with the noise that I have gotten for merely picking the Nuggets over the Lakers in this series. But what I will say about this game is I think it's a must win. Like, I know Aaron likes to do the thing where it's only a must win if your season ends if you don't win it. But I don't see how the Lakers come back against this Nuggets team down 0-2. You needed to get a split out of these first two games. In my opinion, you needed to get the first one. You needed to win game one. They didn't. And, now you absolutely have to win game two, in my opinion. And if you don't win it, then you have to win both of your games. You have to win 2 in a row. And then at that point you need to win 4 out of 5 against a team that if you lose tomorrow will have beaten you 10 straight times. You have to win tomorrow. Have to. And we'll see if the Lakers are up to it, right? I hope so. I think LeBron, the way that LeBron handles this one, is going to be really interesting to watch. I thought he was kind of patient while the Lakers tried to get D'Lo going in the last game. I don't think you're going to see that same patience here in this one. I hope not, anyway. And the hope here is that AD does what he did last game again. Like he needs to, and you need more from Austin. You need more from Rui, and your defense needs to be better. I think at the end of the day here, this is an absolute must win here for the Lakers, and how they handle it, I think, is going to be really telling, not just of how this series is going to go, but of how this organization feels about their chances in this series. We'll see. All right, everybody, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. It had all the feel of a lowdown because it was just me and he had the swish noises and all of that. But because it's a Sunday, and I think because we all could just use the warm embrace of a friendly bartender, him being me, I went ahead and considered this a lounge episode. Tomorrow, Raj and I will be live excuse me, after the game. And then Wednesday, I will try to find a guest. And then Thursday we have Aaron coming on as he does every week. And hopefully, if the Lakers are able to win tomorrow, momentum shifts and the pressure really gets applied to Denver. We'll just see how tomorrow night goes. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow.